You're listening to the Bear in Mind Podcast, episode 134.
A podcast that breaks it down so you can break the cycle for good. Now, your host, Tara Rama, but you can call her T.
We're talking today about sticking to the plan. And this came up recently with two of my clients and with me. And with me, I haven't gotten back into a routine. We went on holiday, and when I came back from holiday, I found it kind of difficult to go back to how I do things, my regular routine. And so when this subject kind of came up with two of my clients, I actually learned a little bit from them, and then I was able to get insight into why I haven't been sticking to my plan, and I'm still not. And here's what happened. So first, let me define what a plan is. A plan can be anything. It can be a diet you want to follow. It can be what I suggest to my clients that want to stop yelling is that you track how you yell. You make a plan to yell, and then you track that. And it's very similar to creating a diet. You track what you're eating. It can also be how you plan out your time. And it is one of the most common advice out there, plan. And it works. But a lot of times we don't follow this plan. That is probably the biggest obstacle. We all have heard this advice out there, planning. Follow some sort of guideline, follow a diet, and it'll work. And it does. If you ever notice, you go on, if you follow a particular diet, a way of eating, you will lose the weight. And so that's where the problem is. That's at least where we think the problem is. We have not stuck to a plan. And so when I was thinking about this, I saw that there's kind of one big thing that we do when it comes to a plan. We use the plan to determine our outcome. Now, if that sounds a little strange, let me explain. We have determined that if for some reason we have gotten off track, that's another kind of way people talk about it. Oh, I've gotten off track. I haven't followed my diet this week. I haven't followed my diet for 2 weeks. That we then measure if we've passed or if we failed by whether or not we have been sticking to this plan. And you can kind of see it's tied to a little bit of our need to be slightly perfect. That if we don't continuously follow a certain diet or a certain way that we want to be in our lives, time management system, that if we go off of it a little bit, that means it's utter failure. And that is kind of what had come up in my head as well as in my clients, is that I am now failing. This is not going to work, right? Because I've gotten off the plan, as if getting off the plan is evidence that this isn't working. Because intellectually, we all kind of get this. So if you're on a diet for about a month and you go off of it for a week and then you come back to it, it's probably a lot easier to get back on that track, to get that continuous weight loss that you want. And the same is true when you're trying to stop yelling at your kids. You make a plan to yell and you track it. And let's say you don't track it the number of days that I suggest that you do to get some insight versus 14 days. It's if you have 7 days that you've tracked it and then you don't track it the next 7 days, it's as if we failed rather than getting back and tracking another 7 days to get insight into some of our patterns of why we yell. And that happened to me in my time management, is that, I went off my time management, the way I go about planning my day-to-day routine. And I was like, okay, I need to get back. And I was thinking, this is kind of not working because it's been a couple weeks since I came back from holiday. And I was doing the same thing that my clients had presented to me. And I really I think it's one of the things that is so gracious is that I actually learn from other people about this. So when you have determined that you're on some sort of plan, whatever that is, and you go off of it, notice if you decide that that's a failure or a success, how long you stay on it. Oh, I've stayed on it for 2 months. That's a really good thing. Because that is not the result. Because the result that you want is whatever the goal is, to stop yelling, to lose the weight, to start exercising, to gain more muscle mass. Whatever the goal is, that is technically your pass or fail. But it's the outcome. It's the result that's going to determine if you fail. So if you actually stop doing the thing, stop actually going back to the plan and never going back to the plan, that actually is failing. You've decided to quit. I'm not even going to go back. So what do you do if you're not sticking to the plan? You've noticed that you are a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks off of whatever plan you want to be on. What do you do? Well, one of the things that I do, and I have my clients do, so for example, if you want to stop yelling, the very first thing that I have them do is write out why. And a lot of people skip this step. And I have to tell you, I skip this step with a lot of my goals. And then I end up going back to it. So you might as well do it in the beginning. It's a lot easier when you do it in the beginning, is to list out every single reason that you want to stop yelling at your kids. It can be anything. Even if you think it's the smallest reason. And I also say this to people who want to lose weight. It could be, I want to look good in a bikini. It doesn't matter. Don't judge it. Write down every single idea and keep that piece of paper, keep it accessible so that you can see it. Because at some point, you are probably going to tell yourself, and I tell myself this, is that why bother? And that question is going to come up. Because when you go off that plan and you've deemed it a failure because you've gone off the plan, not because you have achieved the result or not achieved the result, it's because that's why you're bothering. You're bothering because of all of those reasons. And I really suggest that you fill up one whole page. In fact, fill up both sides of one A4 document. Fill it up. Put out every reason. Kind of push yourself to come up with a reason. Because at some point, it is going to come up. Why bother when you go off of it? The next thing is to not punish yourself. We punish ourselves and we go, oh, well, I was really good for 6 weeks and now everything kind of went to pieces. Even those kind of things the way you talk to yourself in those instances, because I was kind of saying that to myself when I went off my time management scheduling. I was like, oh, I've been doing this for years and now I'm off of it and everything's kind of gone to pieces. And I noticed I was talking to myself and I was punishing myself. And what I do in these situations, and I have to tell myself this, and only because I get coached and I get reminded of this, it has finally sunk in that I don't go back and I don't even look at the past. I just pick up where I left off. So even though I've missed a couple of weeks now of doing the way I plan out my time schedule, what I'm going to do at the beginning of this week is I'm going to pick up and just do it. I'm not even going to go, oh, I missed the last 2 weeks. I didn't plan, and punish myself for the things that I didn't get done that I would have gotten done had I planned my time better. I'm going to pick up the next day and do my planning, my time management planning. You're going to pick up and start tracking your yelling. You're going to pick up, start tracking your eating. You're going to pick up, start planning your meals. Whatever it is, you're just going to pick back up. You're going to stop the punishment, and it's the next day. Forget about the rest and pick back up. Pick back up the running, the exercising, whatever it is. And the last tip that I have is that you expect to not follow the plan perfectly. You plan on actually going off the plan. You plan on something unexpected. You plan on missing a week. You say, this is part of it. And what actually you're doing is just learning to pick yourself back up and get back on your plan. That is the skill that you're actually developing. It isn't sticking to the plan. It isn't following the plan perfectly. It's picking yourself back up when you've had an upset, when you've had a setback. That is what gets you sticking to the plan. That's all I have for you this week. I'll check back with you next.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.